Hello and welcome to the Author Webinar Series, brought to you by the Nonfiction Authors Association and Writers Conference. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you are seeking guidance for your own author journey and want to reach your goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. We look forward to connecting with you and hope you enjoy this webinar.
Hey everyone, welcome to another free webinar with the Nonfiction Authors Association. I love delivering these trainings for you and appreciate you spending time with me. I always probably jam-pack these with too much, so get ready for the fire hose to open. And I would love to take your questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. It's hard for me to navigate the chat, but if you can put them in the Q&A box, I will absolutely stay and take all your questions after we get through the learning. So step one in building your nonfiction book marketing plan is really understanding your target audience. This is such a missed opportunity by a lot of writers, and it helps dictate everything you do with your book marketing. So who is your ideal target audience? What are their demographics? What are their age ranges? What are they interested in? What blogs do they read? What websites do they visit? What podcasts do they listen to? And more importantly, what do they care about? What are their interests, needs, and challenges? And how can you serve them? This is so key to everything, because if you're speaking to the specific interests, needs, and challenges of your target audience, you're going to better connect with them. So let's look at some examples. KevinMD.com is a really interesting site. Kevin is a physician who teaches physicians how to grow their practices. So his content is all about how to manage and grow your physician practice, very specific target audience. And because of that, he's got a huge following. He's doing really well. For those of you who write memoir or narrative nonfiction, this is Donna Hartley. She's a memoir writer. She survived this plane crash you see on the screen here. She survived stage 3 cancer and a collapsed heart valve. She's kind of a walking miracle. But as a writer and a speaker, she does a lot of stuff around women's health. So she has an ongoing campaign with the Go Red for Women, the American Heart Association. They pay her to speak at their events and sell her books. So you can find the hook in your memoir or your narrative nonfiction. Jenny Levine Fink was forced to go gluten-free when she discovered she had an illness, and she started blogging about it. And over the years, she blogged for a number of years and built a community around living a gluten-free life. So imagine what happens when she finally gets her book out. And by the way, guys, her book is a memoir. This is another memoir. The hook is around what the memoir is about. It's about learning to live a gluten-free life, which isn't fun. For those of you who are doing that, it's not easy to do. So she has this very active community of subscribers who join her coaching programs and buy her menus and things like that. And she gives lots of free information on how to live gluten-free. Patrick Schwartfeger has been speaking about data trends, cryptocurrency, things like that for many years now. And so his target audience are people that are interested in tech and data trends. He's been earning 6 figures almost exclusively from keynote speaking for probably over a decade at this point. I love Roxane Gay. She spoke at our conference last year, and she writes about a lot of issues for women, and she's struggled with weight. She's struggled with abuse. And so another memoir writer who really speaks to her target audience of women. And then this was a great book. If you didn't read it, Dan Harris is 10% Happier. He is a broadcaster on Good Morning America. He had an on-air panic attack and wrote another memoir about his journey to learn to live with anxiety. And it's a really great read. And because of that, he started a podcast, very successful. By the way, podcasts get monetized today, you guys, and he's talking to people who struggle with anxiety. I love this site, I Breathe, I'm Hungry. She does keto recipes, and though I don't follow keto religiously, I love the recipes. And so, tons of free information for people who like this lifestyle. And she did this for a number of years until she started releasing books. Imagine what happens when you've engaged an audience and built fans from sharing the content that meets their interests, needs, and challenges. And then this is Joseph Alexander's site, Fundamental Changes. He started by writing guitar instruction manuals and then branched out into other music instruction guides, brought in guest authors. They're doing seven figures a year in music instruction guide manual sales. They're all self-published. Know your target audience. So what do all of these folks have in common? They're teaching their target audience something. They're teaching meeting an interest, need, or a challenge through the content they're sharing, whether that's through their websites, their blogs, their speaking. All of those are content marketing strategies. So, with content marketing and building your book marketing plan, I recommend that every author have at least one piece of foundational content. And by that, I mean on your website. So, a blog, a podcast, or video. Now, you can do a combination of these, but you should have at least one on your website because what we want to do is be engaging our audience with content and driving traffic back to our own websites. And so this is essential. If you choose to do a podcast, your episodes would be podcast blog posts. If you choose to do video, you'd have a video blog. The point is that you're adding new content on a regular basis to engage your audience. If you want to get visibility in Google, one of the worst things you can do is have a static website that never changes. So, adding a blog is going to help you attract website traffic and engage potential readers, draw them in. And then that gives you content to share on social media and through email marketing. So, more content marketing strategies, email, email, email. I can't emphasize this enough. I really believe every one of us should be building an email list. It is one of the best ways you can engage with your target readers. And it is a well-known fact, speakers sell books. You can be speaking in person. You can be doing online events like I'm doing right now. These are so much fun. I don't have to get on a plane. I get to connect with people around the globe. I love doing these. So you could be doing this as well. And then there's also posting on other websites, writing guest articles for other sites, for industry publications and niche magazines. And then, of course, social media, sharing your content through social. The point here is that we are clear about our target audience, their interests, their needs, and their challenges. And then we're creating content to engage them that meets those interests, needs, and challenges. My target audience is nonfiction writers. Hopefully, this presentation meets some of your interests, needs, and challenges. So, email, I really want to emphasize this because it is such a powerful digital asset. Social media is passive and it's on someone else's real estate. With email marketing, you own your database. You might rent a tool to connect with your database, but that information is yours versus if you build your entire audience on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, that could go away. We lost our Twitter account a number of years ago. We had 70,000 followers. And one day I went to post and it was literally just evaporated. It was gone. And I spent months trying to get it back. They don't have tech support over at Twitter that helps with that stuff. I still have to this day, I have no idea what happened. But that was on rented real estate. It was a huge lesson. And the email's also just more engaging, right? So we want to give people incentive to sign up for our emails. And it could be as simple as the first couple chapters of your book. What a great way to hook readers. It's like going to the cookie store at the mall and getting the free sample. Giving the first chapter or two of your book is the taste of the cookie so that people want to keep reading and go buy the book. It could be some bonus checklists or templates or worksheets. It could be recipes if your book is about cooking. It could be a quiz or a mini course. It could be some recordings. So the key is that you're offering something that meets those interests, needs, and challenges. This is Jenny Levine Fink's sign up for her Good For You gluten free. And she says, join me for exclusive content. And it's interesting. She has 24,000 subscribers. That makes me say, oh, well, I should be one of those, right? That's a big audience. So you can join and get free gluten free guidance. Dailyom.com. Madison Taylor started this site. It's a daily and it's like a little inspirational nugget in your inbox and just a genius way to connect with people who are interested in personal transformation. And then that has led to them offering courses. It's such an interesting course model. Pay what you want when you sign up for their courses, and they have millions of subscribers. So even though they're charging 20 or 30 bucks for a course, that's, I'm certain, generating great amount of revenue for them. James Clear, I'm a super fan. Atomic Habits has got to be one of my favorite books I've ever read. And he built his audience by sending out a weekly email every Thursday with very short tips in it about living in your habits and your lifestyle. So at 321 Thursday, I'm sure it's in my inbox right now, but just three quick ideas, two quotes, and it's just super quick and it's a fun read. And he has over 1 million subscribers. So what happens when you build an audience like that of 1 million subscribers, not only do you get a huge book deal, but he's turned around and he wrote a great book that's really buzzworthy and it's sold millions and millions of copies at this point. So a great example. Quizzes and surveys are another fun way to grow your email list. Sally Hogshead has been running this Fascinate quiz. She has a light version of it that she does at live presentations. I've seen it. You can take it from your phone, and guess what? You're signing up for her email list. And then she has a more complex version that she sells as part of her consulting with organizations. Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith has spoken at our conference in the past. She's brilliant. She wrote this book called Sacred Rest. It's about the kinds of rest we need: physical, emotional, spiritual, creative. And then she put herself on a media tour and did tons of podcast interviews. And she said, take my free quiz and find out what kind of rest you need at restquiz.com. She built this quiz, you guys, on a free WordPress plugin and has had over 200,000 people join her email list because they've taken this quiz. We have a new quiz you can take over at marketinggapquiz.com. So it will show you what are the gaps in your book marketing strategy. And then the results, based on your results, you get a little mini toolkit. So it's loaded with value. It takes like less than 3 minutes. Marketinggapquiz.com. So, tip for you as well. We should all be doing this with our nonfiction. Within your book, offer your readers some sort of bonus download. You have no way to know who buys your books. Amazon doesn't share sales data. And as a reader, it's always fun to get bonus content. So within your book, you can offer those free bonuses, your worksheets, your checklist, your quiz, whatever it is. Offer that somewhere in your book, not at the beginning, but generally you're going to end up with some blank pages when you typeset your book because chapters start on the right. So maybe halfway through on a blank left page, you say, grab your reader bonuses at mygreatbookbonus.com or something like that, and drive your readers to go input their email address and download your content. Now you can form a relationship with them and continue providing value. So it's just a great strategy. Every author should be doing this. All right, more with your marketing. Beta readers and launch teams are so valuable for a whole bunch of reasons. Beta readers are people that you give early access to your manuscript, and you might do that because you're looking for editorial feedback. Maybe you want to know, does it make sense? Is there anything that's confusing? Does it flow? These are the kinds of questions that you can ask early readers to share with you so that you make sure that you're meeting expectations of your readers. You can also, beta readers can be your earliest book reviewers on Amazon. You know, people who've read your book a month or two prior to its release can be your first reviewers on Amazon. And I love working with beta readers because it's word of mouth buzz. The more eyeballs you get on your books, the more chances you have to dazzle those readers and then have them talking about it and recommending your book to their friends. So they write our reviews. They can also share on social. Maybe some of your beta readers have their own websites, their own social media followings, their own blogs, maybe even podcasts. Maybe they belong to groups. Maybe you've written a book for dog care and you've got friends that are part of dog care groups and they can recommend your book in those groups. So we want to make it easy for them to help get the word out and stay engaged with them through the process. So when I did a bit call for beta readers on my nonfiction book publishing plan, my goal was to get 100 beta readers. I wasn't looking for editorial feedback. I was looking for those early reviews and the buzz. I wanted people talking about the book. And so I created an application and I put out an email and a call on social media. I had 401 people apply. I ended up accepting 400 of them. Only one looked like a spammer. And so you can create an application if you want to get a bunch of beta readers, create an application and screen them a little bit, ask them how they will help contribute to promoting the book. If they like the book, we can't force people to do things, but hey, will you write a review on Amazon if you like the book? Just ask that question. And then if you have a bunch of beta readers, you're going to need to organize them in some way. So because I had so many, I created a Facebook group. I created an email list. I was connecting with them. You're going to want to share your manuscript with them. You can do that with a Dropbox link, or I love BookFunnel. BookFunnel.com is a really inexpensive tool for sharing digital copies of your book. But you want to stay in constant communication with them. You want them to feel like they're part of the process and let them know, hey, the book's in typesetting and check out this endorsement I just got. Let them feel like part of the process. It is an honor to get to read somebody's book ahead of its launch, and many beta readers feel like that way. Wow, I'm part of a very tiny exclusive club. And so you want to show your gratitude, but they also really benefit from getting to be part of your beta reader team. Now, whenever I tell people to share their books ahead of publication, people panic and say, but I don't, what if people steal my book or my idea? And we talked about this at a previous nonfiction writers conference with Seth Godin, and he said, my favorite quote, your problem isn't piracy, your problem is obscurity. So look, does piracy happen with books? It does, absolutely. It's not super common, but it happens. If it happens, we deal with it. We put a cease and desist out. Amazon doesn't tolerate it. They'll take it down. So I spend a lot less time worrying about that and more time worrying about getting your book in front of as many readers as possible. That's really what it comes down to. We want people to read our books. All right. Next, we want to optimize for Amazon because this is where 70% of all books are being sold. Categories are key. So, figuring out the book categories where your book will be listed on Amazon, you get to choose three, and you choose three categories for each edition of your book: one for your paperback, one for your hardcover, one for your Kindle edition, one for your Audible edition. Every writer asks me, how do I get to be an Amazon bestseller? Look, it is a goal for many writers. It's also pretty easy to do. I'm going to talk to you about that. However, there's no long-term value of being an Amazon bestseller. I really feel like it's kind of eroded the term best-selling author. It used to mean New York Times bestseller, and now you can become an Amazon bestseller with as few as 5 book sales. It really is that easy. So I would rather see you aim to be in the top 10 of a category in the long term. We're going to talk about how to do that. This guy had created an Amazon bestseller with a blank book. So yeah, it's that easy. But categories matter because of visibility. If when your book is at the top of a category, you're getting more visibility. You're getting visibility from the readers who click on that category to see what's there. And while you're in that number one position, you get that little tag on the book. It goes away as soon as you fall out of number one. So if you're aiming to do this for a day, you get a tag for a day, but it goes away. But look, we can stay in the top 10 of a category over the long term if we're doing the marketing work. I love sharing this example of Mark Paul. This book is 5 years old and he still hovers in the top 10 of multiple categories on Amazon. And I'm going to show you how he did this. But, and look, all four editions of his book on one category. So this is Mark. He has no platform. Doesn't care about social media, and it's a self-published memoir, but he decided he was going to go all in on Amazon ads. And part of success with Amazon ads is finding the right categories for your book. He is now over 60,000 copies sold in 5 years of a self-published memoir. This is exceedingly rare. This is not typical results, but he figured out the formula, and I'm going to share that with you. So here's his strategy. He wrote a great book. This is step one. He didn't skimp on editing. He had lots of editing, multiple rounds of editing. I love editors. They make our work better. And especially with a memoir, it needs to read like fiction. It needs to be a page turner. So he accomplished that through lots of editing. And then he figured out his best categories. His book is about betting on a horse, a filly to win the Kentucky Derby, a long shot bet, and then having to collect his prize from the Mexican drug cartel. It reads like a novel, as it should. And therefore, he's got the right categories: gambling, organized crime, horse racing, equestrian. So he knows his target audiences. There are multiple there. And then he selects hundreds of keywords when he sets up his Amazon ads. Amazon ads are keyword based, and he invests heavily in those ads. As long as you're selling more books than what you're spending, you can come out ahead with those ads. So your homework is to figure out the right Amazon categories. This is true for your book coming out or even an existing book. You have to go in and check these categories. I just noticed one of my books somehow got routed into a different category that I did not select. So it's on my list today to contact Amazon to change that. And you can request a change to your categories through KDP if you're a publisher, or through your Amazon Author Central account. So step one to figure out categories is look at competing books. What categories are they listed in? Start building your list. And then you're going to narrow down your 3 categories for each edition of your book. There's also a paid tool that can help you with this called Publisher Rocket. I think it's $100. I'm not sure, but it will make this a bit of a faster process. So more tips for optimizing on Amazon. Think about the keywords your target readers are using to find a book like yours. Is it memoir about grief, aging dog care, gluten-free living? Whatever it is, figure out those keywords and make sure, if they're not already in your book title, put them in the book description on Amazon. Make sure you're leveraging Author Central. It is free. It is a free tool from Amazon. You go in there, you claim your books, and then you can update your book's sales page. You can change the sales copy. You can add A+ content. You can do all kinds of things to your book page and drive sales to Amazon. The more sales you get there, sales beget sales, and utilize those Amazon ads. They're amazing. And reviews. Book reviews are hugely important to Amazon for a whole bunch of reasons. Readers are looking at them. It shows readers your books are popular. It also tells Amazon your book is popular. So it should be an ongoing goal for all of us to be seeking out book reviews. All right, I have some good news for you, especially if you're new to this, but even if you're not, you may already have a bigger audience than you realize. So I built this chart several years back. I call it your community of influence. Who do you know that can help support your book in some way? So I'm talking about your peers. Of course, your family and friends are going to go and buy your book, but also maybe it's past coworkers. Maybe it's people you met at a conference you attended last year. Maybe it's the guy you coached Little League with. Maybe it's somebody you went to school with 30 years ago. Because look, it is impressive to publish a book. There has been a statistic floating around for years that 80% of people would like to write a book. I don't know what the percentage of us are that actually do it, but it's not 80%. It's probably under 5. So it's impressive when you actually go through and publish a book and people want to support you. People who know and like you want to support you. And then there's also the people you should be connecting with. like fellow writers in your space, the people who host podcasts about your topic, the people who are influencers in your space. So, this is an exercise I go through every time I release a new book. I go through, who do I know? Right? So, my social media followers, what groups do I belong to that I can connect with? Past readers, of course, your email subscribers. So, your community is probably already bigger than you even realize. And then what we do once we identify them is we're going to ask for support. What can they do to support you? It could be as simple as asking them to buy the book and write a review on Amazon. Maybe they could bring you in to speak at an event, right? So I've got tons of contacts in the Silicon Valley. I don't write for the Silicon Valley, but if I did, you can bet I'd be reaching out to my buddies at Google and Salesforce and saying, hey, bring me in for an event, right? Or buy 100 copies of my book to give away to your team, whatever it is. So bulk sales, those types of things. So when I do this exercise, I create a spreadsheet, I list the people I know, and then I have a column called Ask. What is it I'm asking them to do? And then I reach out. All right, we're going to bring this home and then open up for questions. But really, our goal with book marketing is to make a commitment to it. I know we don't all love doing it, but if you want results, it's just so important. So, sending out review copies, I really challenge you to make this a priority. You should be sending review copies out to podcasters, people of influence who can talk about your book or hold it up on an Instagram reel or recommend it on LinkedIn, wherever your target audience is spending time. So I always send a copy to people I've mentioned in the book. I send copies out to my peers and certainly associations, colleges. If you want your book used in colleges, send it to professors for speaking opportunities. So another challenge for you, make a list of who you should be sending review copies to and challenge yourself to do that. I worked with an author who was a former Microsoft executive, and he had started a consulting business. And when he published his book, he said, I'm going to send 50 copies every month to prospective clients. And that strategy blew up his business, just sending out copies for clients. So think about how you can do that. I also really love podcasts for authors. We should all be doing this. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts, and they cover niche topics. It could be about living with diabetes, it could be about growing your business, it could be about healthy aging, wellness, selling on eBay, financial investments. All the things show up in podcast topics. I'm a huge podcast listener too. I just love them. And podcasters tell me all the time they need guests, they want your pitches. I'm not talking about the top podcasts, right? Joe Rogan, Brene Brown, Adam Grant, they're not looking for guests, but the mid tier and smaller podcasts are absolutely seeking guests and they want you to pitch them. So go be a guest on podcasts. And we're not going on there promoting our books, we're going on there delivering value based on topics from our books. And speakers sell books, as I said. So, really encourage you to embrace this as part of your marketing strategy. Where can you be speaking? Look, in our own backyards, there are endless speaking opportunities. You could speak at service groups like Rotary and Kiwanis. You can speak at local association chapter meetings. I've spoken to the Architects Association, the Life Coaches Association, the retired teachers. I mean, you name it, I have spoken there in the last 20 years. So, in your own backyard, chambers of commerce, schools, lunch and learns at corporations, there are just endless opportunities to speak and sell your books. And then you can do online events like we're doing right now. I love doing these. They're tons of fun. So you could be hosting your own or being a guest on other people's events. Okay, I know that's a lot. I went through a lot, but here's the thing. I know it's a lot, and you're thinking, how in the heck am I going to do all of this? My recommendation is that we hire virtual assistants. A virtual assistant is an administrative professional. They're contractors. They work from typically from their own homes, and you can hire someone for as few as 5 hours a month to tackle some of these tasks that maybe you don't want to do or you're procrastinating doing. So maybe you need help getting your social media posts out, or putting your email newsletter together, or researching podcasts, or sending out your pitches, or finding new speaking opportunities. These are all the kinds of tasks a virtual assistant can help you do. You can hire one for anywhere from $20 to $50 an hour and up. But for a couple $100 a month, if you can make that work in your budget, it could help you get some of these marketing actions in motion and free you up to do the things that you enjoy. And by the way, if budget is tight, you could also hire interns or bring in interns from your local colleges. In California, we do have to pay them, but that's not true in all states. And I've had summer interns. It's really fun. They always have such great, fresh ideas. They're great with technology and they have great energy. I've really enjoyed doing that. So you could bring in, summer's coming, bring in a summer intern. We do maintain a list of virtual assistants who work with authors over at Author Assistant Directory. That'll route you to our list. It's free. You can also hire through Upwork. The virtualsavvy.com has an RFP, a request for proposals. So you can put out a call for, I need an assistant to help me with my social media and my podcast pitches. And then they'll put that out to their member community and you'll get proposals directly to your inbox. And we just recently teamed up with the Virtual Savvy. I actually created a course for them teaching assistants how to work with authors and driving them to our new Authors Assistance Academy. So we're working on helping assistants know how to support authors. And Abby, the CEO of Virtual Savvy, is speaking at the conference this year. So you can learn more about how to work with author assistants. All right. So just to drive this home, if I haven't annoyed you with this yet, who is your target audience? What are their interests, needs, and challenges? And how can you serve them through the content that you create and share in the world? This is really the key to marketing online, is addressing the interests, needs, and challenges of a very clear target audience. Now, marketing, I know it's a painful topic. I hear this all the time. I don't want to do it. I have other things I want to do. I'd rather be writing. I've got a day job. We all do, by the way. Even New York Times bestselling authors have day jobs. By the way, very few of them. Nobody's doing this on their own, especially the New York Times bestsellers. They all have assistants, I promise you. But here's the thing. My recommendation to you is to aim to do 3 things a day to promote your platform, right? So if you walk out in a garden every day and you plant and water 3 seeds, what happens over time? You grow a beautiful garden. Marketing works the same way. If you can commit 20 minutes a day to write a blog post, send out a podcast pitch, put out a call for beta readers, whatever it is, ask 3 people to write a book review. 3 seeds a day, this effort adds up over time. And I get it. I'm busy too. Book marketing is not the top of my priority list, but we have to make it a priority if we want to sell the books. All right, I'd love to take some questions, so please pop them in the Q&A. I will stay as long as it takes to answer every question you have. I love Q&A. Let's do this. Before we do that, please give me 2 minutes. I just want to share with you, if you're not aware yet, that our 16th, I can't believe it's our 16th annual Nonfiction Writers Conference, is less than 3 weeks away. It's May 6th through 8th. And this conference, since its inception in 2010, has been held entirely online. We have a phenomenal speaker lineup for you guys this year. We're covering so many things, from how to set up Amazon ads and work with virtual assistants. We're doing author success stories. We've got writing tips, marketing tips, publicity, so much great content for you this year. We also do live agent pitches. So if you're aiming to get a book deal, this is a great opportunity. We do have an application process, but your chances of getting chosen are really high, because even though we have hundreds of attendees, only a small percentage are brave enough to pitch the agents. So you have a really good chance of getting selected, and you just register for the conference with gold access or better. This year, I'm very excited about this post-conference strategy session. So the week after the conference, on Tuesday, May 12th, I'm hosting an online event and a huge chat. We're going to talk about the conference, answer any outstanding questions, maybe help brainstorm ideas, set intentions? How do you take what you learned and put it into action? So I'm very excited for this post-conference session. So if you decide to join us, we do have these live sessions for 3 days, May 6th through 8th. There's Q&A with the speakers. We have the agent pitches. There's a virtual networking session that's a ton of fun. And I promise you, even introverts enjoy this session. We have one-on-one consultations. Registration is happening for those right now, and they fill up fast. So if you want to get some free consultations with publishing industry pros, now's the time to do that. And then we have our strategy session. There's recordings and transcripts available. Attendees love this event. The best conference I've ever attended. We have one that says, I hate the thought of sitting on Zoom all day, but this conference is an exception because it's so engaging. We work really hard, you guys, to bring you really engaging content. So you can put new skills. I promise you, super content rich. I know we have past attendees on this call today. If you've attended and can give us a shout out in the chat, I'd appreciate it. But really encourage you to consider joining us because you will leave this conference with pages and pages of notes, guaranteed. So we have a discount today, only 30% off for webinar attendees. The code is webinar30, and you can get that at nonfictionwritersconference.com. If you don't want to register online or you have any challenges, feel free to email our support team, help@Nonfiction Authors Association. So that's nonfictionwritersconference.com. The code is webinar30. If someone would pop that in the chat, I'd sure appreciate it. And now I would love to take your questions. So let me stop this share here and let's get into it. All right. Where's my Q&A box hiding? Sorry, guys, there we go. They keep moving stuff in Zoom. All right, here we go. How can you make an appealing pitch to a podcaster if your book has not yet been accepted for publication? Hey, Dorothy, that's a great question. The book doesn't need to be out yet. It absolutely doesn't need to be out. While being an author does add some credibility, the fact is your book is coming and you are an expert in your subject matter. And I know you happen to be writing a memoir. You have personal experience, and that is valuable to podcasts. So just let them know I have a forthcoming book, but still pitch them that you absolutely have value to offer. And the great thing about doing podcasts early prior to the book launch is when the podcast goes well, you can reach out in 6 months or whenever the book is out and say, hey, I'd love to come back, right? So you've been a good guest before. They know they can count on you. They'll bring you back. Sunny below that says, my book is a biography with 3 distinct topics within the story: golf, country music, and philanthropy. So my audience could be quite diverse. How do I center on one or try to appeal to them all? I love this question, Sunny. So sometimes books can have multiple audiences. As you do, you can leverage that with your Amazon categories. I think when we're talking about pitching a podcast, you answered this under the podcast. So I would not necessarily try to appeal to all of them. I think I would pick one lane and try to stay there for now. So if philanthropy is a focus, that's certainly a specific audience that's interested in philanthropy and also fellow philanthropists. But golf is a really great niche topic. So I would say a book about golf, as I'm kind of brainstorming out loud here. I think that's got a really interesting hook. Golfers are passionate about their subject matter, but certainly you could be on a podcast about golf, a podcast about philanthropy or business. I don't know how many podcasts talk a lot about country music from a fan perspective, unless maybe you're a player. But I would pick one of those and really put most of your energy there, or figure out what do all of these have in common. So golf, country music, and philanthropy, your target could be executives, it could be business owners, right? People that are likely to be interested in some of those things. So narrow it down because it is really difficult to try to straddle multiple audiences. I've done this. I used to do mostly small business writing, but I was really called to work with authors, and so I started doing author content, and I was straddling 2 audiences. And at some point I just had to decide to pick a lane, and some of my business folks came with me and some didn't, and that was okay. But picking one lane will make life a lot easier for you. Nicole, would you consider Substack as an email provider or third-party platform? This is a great question, Nicole. As I understand it, Substack now provides you with the email addresses of the people who follow you. And if that is accurate, I would say it's an email provider at this point. I think at first it didn't do that. And so to me, that was rented real estate. But as long as you're able to take your database with you, then I would say that should be just fine. Katie says, I have a real chicken egg problem with audience. My email list is only so big. And so if you're only emailing a few hundred people with your content, how does your list grow? I have a lot of these content assets, but I don't get how to spread them further. And I love that Elle said I envy your numbers. So hundreds is great, Katie. That's where we all start. So growing the email list is not about asking your subscribers, it's about asking outside of that list. So it's getting your lead magnets, your freebies out in the world. It's speaking at an event. And something that I do when I speak is I do book giveaways. So I will pass around a bag, I will collect email addresses, and then at the end of the presentation, I will give away several copies of the book. I will do lead magnets on social media. That's actually the main way we use social media is to promote webinars and the giveaways and things like that. So really what you want to be doing is promoting your lead magnets to drive new subscribers to your existing email list. I hope that makes sense. Lydia, any tips if you plan to promote your book via your existing email list rather than starting a new list? Your target audience is already big on your yeah, if you're already emailing your target audience, that's great. Get them excited. Let them know the book is coming. Start building that momentum. Create a get notified list too. So those are going to be your most eager buyers. But yes, start talking about it. Don't let it be a secret. We want people to know the book is coming. Katie says, I get really burnt out by the content churn and feeling like I constantly have to create new things when the already valuable things I've created haven't reached a big audience. Yeah, and Christina responded, maybe a virtual assistant would help. So look, Katie, I get it. I'm not saying any of this marketing stuff is easy. It does require a lot of effort for all of us to be doing this. You can repurpose some of that content. In fact, repurpose all of your content. This webinar will get taken and diced into short video clips that go out on Reels and YouTube. Everything I create becomes other types of content. So a blog post could be combined with other blog posts to create a report, right? Or a report can be divided into multiple blog posts. You could be blogging your book. So I would say be thinking about ways to repurpose the efforts that you're already making and have made in the past. I've been blogging for 20 years. I have so much content. And sometimes I go back at my and look at my old content and think, oh, I could update that for current day. So repurpose as much as you can. I do think written content is getting harder and harder to get visibility with because AI is just taking over. So I am encouraging authors to maybe lean more toward video. I think it helps to be visual, it helps to be seen, it helps for people to feel like they get to know you a little bit. So maybe do some of that, and you could take topics that you've written about previously and then go speak about them on a short video. So repurpose and also have some fun with it. Sometimes I have to remind myself because my to-do list is never ending. This is the stuff I love to do. So it's not, I don't resent that I have to create content. I resent that I don't have enough time always to create the content, but it's part of the joy. So if you can find the joy in it, I think that also helps too. Elle says, on my website, I could have my LinkedIn feed populate. Will this keep my website from being static, or is that just duplicating what already exists? I update the static content often. Does this help from being static or not? I don't do podcasts. I fill out newsletters. Scratching my head. You're not failing. Don't like that word, Elle. Okay, an RSS feed on your site is not it's not updating the content. A static website means the same pages. They're not changing. This is why a blog is so powerful because you're adding new content. When Google's algorithms try to decide what results are going to show when you search for something on Google, it is looking at how frequently a website is updated. So the more content you add to your site, statistically, the more traffic your site will receive. So this is why I really encourage all of you aim for one blog post a week. It could be a written post, it could be a video, it could be a recording, but aim for one post a week and start to watch your traffic numbers. If you're writing content or producing content that speaks to your target audience, your traffic will inevitably increase because then you're going to turn around and you're going to share that on social, you're going to put it out in your emails, all of those good things. And by the way, I'm not looking at chat, but if you have questions in the chat, please pop them over in the Q&A box for me. Dick, I have created 32 infographics, each on a different way we skew our own judgment or decision making. How would you suggest I use these assets? Oh, I love some infographics. So, Dick, I would say these are great social media content for sure. So, I would post those to your socials with a written description with each one because we also want text attached to that. Those could individually also be blog posts with text attached to that. You could put some of them together and create reels out of them. So you could do videos right now, you could have a video of the infographic and you talking about it, right? So that would be a great strategy as well. So many ways. That's the whole thing about repurpose. Or you could put them all together in one single reel or put four together and create reels and videos out of that. That I love that you created this many infographics, and I would say start putting them everywhere. Christina, for sharing a link in your book, optimizing for Amazon, etc. Is that for self-published books? What if you have a publisher? Ask your publisher. I mean, publishers should support the author wanting to share with readers. In fact, I was traditionally published years back when we were about to go to press, and a publisher called me and said, "We want you to remove a chapter from your book. We don't care which one. We're trying to cut costs." Now, after I got over my fury about being forced to remove a chapter from my book, that was the moment when I said, I'm going to make this lemonade and I'm going to make a bonus chapter. So I added a link. This was over 15 years ago. I added a link in the book to say, download the bonus chapter. And I have done that in every book ever since. So your publisher, they should absolutely allow you to do that. And we're seeing this in traditionally published books all the time. If any of you, if you listen to audiobooks, they almost always have companion downloads. Your publisher should be willing to do that for you as well. Patsy, do we need to give beta readers a copy of the finished book? If yes, what is the best way to do it? So, Patsy, for beta readers, you're generally sending a digital copy of the manuscript, a Word document, Google Doc, something like that. You could send them the finished book when it's out. I don't think most authors do that. That's a lot of added expense and time. But generally, you're just sharing the digital copy, and you can do that through a Dropbox link or use bookfunnel.com is a tool I really like. Alice says, I read up on this author, Mark. He went through a paid marketing promoter for help. That was supposed so he set up all his own ads. I've worked with Mark very closely. And then later on, he did hire a promoter who got him some stuff on gambling websites. This is where most of his marketing has taken place. But he would tell you over and over again, those Amazon ads are the primary way he got all those book sales and just continues today to get those book sales. How do you send review copies? BookFunnel. So, Ralph, yeah, BookFunnel is made for sending review copies. Basically, you can upload your manuscript and it allows the people who download it the option to put it on their Kindle or their Nook or however they want to view the manuscript. So, BookFunnel is a great tool for that. And I think it's currently $20 a month or something like that. Carol says, can I fundraise to not only buy one book and donate one to a school? Ethics matter as I'm a psychologist. Can I fundraise, but to donate one to the school? I'm not sure I fully understand that, Carol, but fundraising as part of a book promotion strategy is pretty common. So for every book I sell, I'll donate one to a school. Sure, absolutely. Or a portion of the profits go to children's reading campaign or something like that. So I don't think there's anything unethical. In fact, I think that's very admirable and would encourage you to do that. And if I didn't understand your question, feel free to clarify. Trudy says, are we supposed to send hard copy books to podcasters and influencers? Expensive shipping cost could be a stop. So, Trudy, there's a couple ways to approach this. Yeah, ideally, you want to send physical books. People, they have to see them. They open their, I get physical books in the mail every week. We have to see them if you mail us a physical book. But it can be expensive. I will say the post office offers media mail. This is a little known fact. Media mail, I think, is currently maybe $3 to ship a book. So it's a fourth class mail, right? You can only use it to send books or DVDs if anyone's still doing that. But it is a less expensive way to do shipping. But there's also the case where if you're doing outreach, you could say, would you like a review copy? And then would you like a digital or a print copy? So that is one way to approach podcasters. I would see that more as a strategy for maybe college professors, offering them a review copy, because then you kind of have a warm lead and you can follow up. But if you're trying to get the attention of influencers, it's a worthwhile investment because think about maybe you spend $100 sending out review copies of your book, but one big podcaster picks it up. That could be really worthwhile to you. What can you say about the marketing options I see on the Ingram dashboard? I don't participate in Ingram's marketing campaigns, so I personally can't really speak to those. I see them. I haven't heard a whole lot of buzz either way, which tells me that nobody's screaming from the rooftops how great they are, but nobody's saying they're awful either. Do you think it's possible to think of self-publishing your book as being proof of concept to agents and traditional publishers? All books are easier to think of as a real thing if they look and feel like books, or should I put my time into pitching a concept? They do not want to see it. They won't. It's extremely unusual for publishers to acquire already self-published books unless they've done insanely well. So no, they do not want you to already have the book published. You're better off to be pitching it pre-publication. What you could do if you have multiple books in you, self-publish that first book, make sure it performs and sells several thousand copies, and then pitch your next book because you can show that you've had success with the self-published book. They love that. But no, if you self-publish the book, agents are very unlikely to be interested. Where can I find mid-tier podcasters, Leslie? You can search the podcast directories, Spotify, iTunes, things like that. There's also lots of podcast database services. There's Podmatch, Matchmaker. If you search podcast directory, there's tons of them out there that will help you find podcasts by keyword. Once you find the podcast, if you're doing your own research, then you need to go find their websites and figure out how to submit to be a guest. But many of them, most of them, I would say, make it pretty obvious how to submit to be a guest because they're looking for us to be guests. And really, my kind of rule of thumb for myself is I will only do podcasts that have been on air for a year. So a year or more, because so many podcasts fall off. And if it's a new podcast, it may not be worth my time. I would call that a small podcast. So if you're looking for mid-tier, you know they've got some sort of audience. The fact that they've been on a year is a pretty good gauge. But I will also say, when you're new at this, say yes to everything. Just say yes. It's good practice. You never know if that podcast is going to take off. So say yes to everything. How can I effectively position and categorize my book within a specific niche or genre when distributing through Publish Drive, given that they pass metadata to retailers like Amazon? So, Lily, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're talking about two different things. The metadata that's getting transferred to Amazon or your keywords and the categories and things like that. But positioning yourself with a niche audience is about the work you're doing as an author and a promoter. So they're really two separate things. Maybe I need you to clarify that question a little bit, please. Steve says, is a press release helpful for a book upon release? Are there individuals and companies that get hired to write and disseminate the press release? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of press releases at this point. There's tons of directories that will happily take your money to put your press release out on the wire. I almost never hear of an author getting an interview. You'll show up on Yahoo News, which is great. It might give you some link juice to your site, but are you going to get media attention as a result? No. You're better off to craft a media pitch directly and send it directly to the media outlets through email, in my opinion, my humble opinion. When you update your content integrated with others in your field, you also get new ideas for next products. Produce a lot of content in a single time and dole out over time. I'm not sure if that's a question. How often do you email? So many people do this daily, but I find that super annoying, Carol. Great question. This is a tricky one for sure. Once a month is a good starting place. Once a week, maybe somewhere in there is a good starting place as you're building engagement. But it really comes down to how much value can you share, right? Can you send out an interesting article once a month? By the way, that article can be from your blog that you put into an email and then click to read more. So you're driving people back to the website. Start it once a month, maybe go to once a week, but only if you're really delivering value. And then watch your unsubscribe rates, because if people are unsubscribing, you may be sending too often. Cindy says, how do I choose self placement when my book is a combination of health and wellness and self help with a metaphysical lens? That's tricky, Cindy. You've got to pick an audience from that. Is it people that are in the spiritual category? Is it people who are in the health and wellness? Are they interested in learning more about emotional health? I don't know, but that is definitely something to brainstorm and figure out so that you can carve out a niche. Because I will tell you, if you try to be all things to all people, it is so much harder to stand out than if you can narrow that focus. So even with positioning the book itself, is it a book for overworked moms? Is it a book for spiritual women? Is it a book for spiritual men? So I would really encourage you to distill that down as much as possible. How would you approach other authors, especially ones who are fairly popular, to obtain a review? I've mentioned some in my book. However, is that a conflict of interest because they're mentioned in the book? Not a conflict of interest, Stacy. Asking for book endorsements happens every day. Authors expect to be approached. We have an article on the site. If you go to the Nonfiction Authors Association and look for how to get book endorsements, we have an article on how to do it. You approach and ask, right? And I will tell you, I've had great luck connecting with influential authors through social media DMs. They often check those. So just don't be afraid to ask. Absolutely. At what point do you have to follow accessibility laws, the ADA Act, Stan? So it is good to be aware of those, and they particularly apply to websites. You want contrast, light and dark for text reading, for visibility purposes. Your book itself, you don't want teeny tiny fonts. But a lot of people, I prefer to read digitally myself because I can increase the font size even with glasses. It's helpful. But I would just be aware of that. But you can go read up on the ADA Act very easily online. Steve says, I haven't done Amazon ads before. Does the author assistant send to Amazon artistic content for the ad? Yeah, there's no artistic content, Steve. It's really just promoting the book. And the Amazon ads are run primarily on keywords. And I just want to pause and say, I know we're at the top of the hour. Some of you probably have to go. Thank you for being here. I'd love to see you at our conference. We will send out the recording and slides later today, and I will stay and continue answering questions. So if you want to stay with me, that's great. Let's continue the party here. So Amazon ads, Steve, are based on keywords. You don't need art. You're really just identifying keywords. Keywords are phrases that people would use to search and find a book like yours. They are also competing book titles, competing authors. So if somebody searches for Stephen King, you want your book to appear with that searched, he would be one of your keywords. So, and we also have some content on Amazon ads on our site, and we have a presentation, a full session on that at the conference. Lily says, how can I influence or optimize niche category ranking for my book when I don't have direct access to Amazon as an author? Your publisher, you do have access, Lily. You need to go create your free Author Central account. So it's 100% free. Type in Author Central and go to that and claim your books. Your publisher might have to approve you as the author, but once you claim your books with Author Central, you can update your categories, you can change the sales page data. And by the way, Publish Drive is a paid service, so they shouldn't have all the control. You have the right to update your books, and you can do that with Author Central. It's completely free. Carol says, my blog is currently on Blogger. I have a link to it on my website. Yeah, it should be on your site, Carol. So blogging on other sites, Medium, Blogger, I'm just not a fan because it's rented real estate. It's not your own site. You want to be driving that to your site. So I would port that over to your site, Carol. Aside from podcasters, any suggestion or input for book blog tours? Tour companies seem to be dominate the mainstream fiction readers. Thinking about your example in The Doctor, any suggestion for a referral for our niche nonfiction? I had fun on one tour, but didn't really, sorry guys, I have a gnat or something, but didn't really target my readers, which is needed. Yeah, blog tours aren't as common as they were 10 years ago, Elle. That's a great virtual assistant task. You're stopping by, but it is very fiction centric, and there are a ton of fiction book review blogs and things like that. I would much rather you consider yourself as being always on tour. That's how I feel. So you're always on tour. You're always looking for opportunities to be a guest or contribute a guest blog post and things like that. Is it okay to ask people to pay to donate a book to a school or some combo? Can I offer author to donate 10% for schools, but ask to click? It would be interested in buying a book for a grad school. If so, I can send to head of departments hoping they can use it and create a course. Separate things happening here, Carol. You can offer, buy a copy to donate, make that an upsell with your book, sure. If you're going to send them to grad schools, I would make that part of your marketing strategy, sending them as review copies and saying, hey, would you be interested in using this in your curriculum? So I don't know if that's so much a donation strategy, though. Did I get you all of your questions? Link we did. If you have anything left, this is the last call for questions. I haven't had a chance to look at the chat. I know there's a lot going on there, so I'll look at it after this. But thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope this was helpful, that you learned some new things, got some fresh ideas here. I sure would love to see you at the conference, nonfictionwritersconference.com. And I just appreciate you all. I wish you tremendous success with your books and hope to see you again soon. Thanks for the shout outs. I'm seeing that. I appreciate that so much. I always appreciate the feedback and the great questions. Yes, some great questions today. This was so fun for me. Launch party ideas. Get online. I just put an article up about that this week. So there's a launch, how to host a launch on our blog as of this week. And yes, Giselle, the coupon's good today, but there are multi-pay options in the cart as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you for attending this webinar by the Nonfiction Authors Association. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you need support navigating the complexities of the publishing industry and want to reach your author goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com.